So you've launched your dropshipping store, or you're about to launch a dropshipping store, and you're considering, how do I actually handle customer returns? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain the exact process for you to follow so you know exactly how to handle any returns that come to your dropshipping business. If you're new to the channel, my name is James Eardley. I've generated over 7 figures in sales with my e-commerce businesses over the last few years, and I make these videos to help people achieve the same success. With that said, let's dive into this process. I'm going to break it right down for you. I'll share my screen shortly, so you'll be in no doubt what the process is for you to follow. Because we need to be able to offer returns to customers under the Consumer Rights Act, and it's definitely the case in the UK, and it'll be the same across the world. We need to be able to offer our customers returns when we're selling directly to the end user of the products that we're selling. Therefore, we need to have a policy in place, and we need to be able to enact that policy so that if a customer turns around and says that they've either changed their mind or the product is faulty, that we can actually process that return. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen and show you a couple of resources that I use to make sure that policies are swift and smooth with my businesses. So the first thing to discuss is that there are 2 types of returns. So we can basically boil them into 2 different categories. When any return request comes to you as a business owner, they're going to always fall into one of 2 categories. Either it will be a customer changing their mind, or it will be because there's a faulty or a damaged product that's been delivered. And in either of these cases, the differences between them will make a big difference on how the returns are handled. If it's a first option, if it's a change of mind, that means the customer will be liable for the returns fees to return it back to your store. Or the second option, if it's a faulty or a damaged product, then it will be your supplier's responsibility because it's their fault that the product is faulty, or it'll be their fault with their couriers that they're using that it's damaged on delivery. And so it'll be up to them to cover the returns fees. We wouldn't expect our customers to pay for that. So important point, it will go into 2 different categories. Once you know which category it falls into, that's going to help us when we go through our process map. So now this brings us to this process map, which I'll walk you through so you know how to handle any return. I put this together because I've got more than one dropshipping store. And so when I have new stores open, I've already got this policy, which is going to be the same for no matter what type of store you have or what type of things you sell. So the process starts when a customer requests to return their order. So they'll get in touch with you by phone, live chat, email. Somehow they'll let you know that they intend to return their order. The next thing to do is to ask the customer and find out whether it meets our returns policy. So you'll have a policy in place, and we'll go through an example policy in just a minute, but you'll go through your policy and check and find out if that customer actually meets the policy. So for example, have they received the order within your returns period, which is generally 14 or 30 days? Is the order unused? Is it in a resellable condition? And is it in its original packaging? Whatever your policy states, we need to check to see if it meets that returns policy. If it doesn't meet the policy, so for example, perhaps they received it 2 months ago over your 30-day returns period, or perhaps it's not in its original packaging, or perhaps there's some damage and it doesn't meet the policy, then you'd explain the policy to the customer, explain that it doesn't meet the policy, and let them know that you can't proceed with the return. First thing is to check the policy, see if that's been met. If it has been met, and they do meet the policy, then we're going to be proceeding with that return. And the first thing for us to do is to ask the customer to check the policy themselves, and also to email a photo of their order in the original box. So we'll ask for some evidence so we can see 100% what is the condition, does it meet our policy. Then we'll receive the customer photo, and from this customer photo and email that they send with all the details about their return request, their order number, etc., we'll then be able to check to see which of the 2 categories it falls into. So remember, before we discussed, it's either going to be a change of mind or a faulty product. We'll be able to see from their photo and the email whether there's any faults or clearly damage, or if it's just a change of mind. We'll be able to make that distinction at that point. And then remember, that will make a difference as to who is liable for the returns fees. As a dropshipping owner, it should never be you. It should either be the supplier if it's the second category of return, or it should be the customer if it's a change of mind. Okay, the next process then is to send the details to the supplier. So you can just forward over that email from the customer and ask them to arrange for the collection or arrange for the return. So the suppliers that I work with, they always have a returns policy set up in almost all cases. And so regardless of who's going to pay, the supplier will be the ones that take care of the return. So they'll help you out to get the return sorted. Either they'll provide a label for the customer to print out, attached to the item to return back, or the suppliers will arrange a collection. And then depending on what type of collection it will be, what time of return it will be, then either the supplier or the customer will pay for that. Our process as a store is to keep the customer and suppliers always informed throughout the whole returns process to make sure that they are kept up to date with everything that's going on. And there's a note here to say that the customer will need to pay if it's a change of mind, unless there's a proven fault or damage when we receive it. So at this point, we receive the order, that the supplier receives the return. That time, then the supplier will check to make sure that it does indeed meet the policy. Now they've got the product physically in front of them, and at that point, if it does meet the policy, they will issue us with a refund because we are technically their customer. And once we've received that refund from the supplier, we'll then go ahead and issue that refund to the customer and let the customer know. We do that inside Shopify. So within the order that you're working on, there's an option to arrange the refund for a customer. And only when you've received it from your supplier would you then click to refund the customer. You let them know, they'll receive an automatic notification. Always good to double check with the customer, let them know that it will be received, but sometimes it can take up to 10 working days for those funds to appear in their account. So there'll be a little bit of time awaiting for them to receive that. So a key part to make your process smooth is to ensure that you have a policy in place, and it is a requirement for you as a dropshipping e-commerce business owner for you to have a refunds policy. And this is an example of a bulletproof returns and refunds policy that you can have on your store. Now, I'll make this available in the description of this video if you want to use this as a template. And essentially, you just enter in your contact information for your store in the parts that are left blank. So what you'll see from this refund policy is that it makes sure that you're bulletproof as a business owner so that you won't lose out on any returns and refunds that happen. Now, the type of dropshipping I do, I work closely with suppliers to help with the refund policy. And so I want to make sure we don't lose out. So this refunds and returns policy that we put together is an amalgamation of the suppliers that we're working with to make sure that it is covered and their supplier returns policies are actually reflected in ours. So that means if we're offering a refund, it basically means that we'll get a refund from our suppliers as well, so we don't lose out as a dropshipping business owner in the middle. So you can see that you've got a 30-day returns policy here. It also states that we need the product to be in a resellable condition, and that way it means that you won't lose out because your suppliers will only accept a refund if it's in a resellable condition. Otherwise, they'll lose out. So you can see this returns policy, and you can have a look to see how we've laid it out to make sure that it's clear, and it's clear that they won't be refunded if they just send it. They have to get in touch with us first before they go ahead and send a refund. We've also got a part in here that makes sure that they understand that if there's damage that we wouldn't expect them to pay, or if there are issues, but we need to find out with images, we need to make sure it's covered by the manufacturer's warranty before we can go ahead and pay out on that. And also we make sure that they understand that some goods are exempt from returns, so they're aware of that. Also some information about refunds and how long it would take them to receive a refund. Also, we have a part at the bottom here about cancellations, which shows that they have 12 hours after they place their initial order to cancel. Otherwise, they may be subject to additional fees. Again, making sure that you don't lose out, so that you don't lose out on capturing a payment and then it has to be returned. You can charge that back to the customer, the processing fees that you'll have been charged. So having a policy in place is crucial. It's somewhere to point to your customers so they understand what your returns policy is, and it gives you a clear document of what is right and wrong and how to proceed based on your own store. So it's hard for me in the video to tell exactly how to handle your own returns because you'll need to have your own policy in place and you'll follow that. And also you need to follow how your suppliers work as well. But this is the way that we operate with my business. So there you have my returns policy and returns process, which I give to virtual assistants to enact on my businesses. So it's always a smooth process and we never lose out when there are returns. Now, a key thing to mention is that the type of dropshipping you do and the model that you've got in place will make a big difference on how easy or difficult it is to handle dropshipping returns. I used to do a certain type of dropshipping where I was working with like AliExpress suppliers, and the suppliers were on the other side of the world, and that made handling returns a nightmare and a big headache. And I had a lot of difficulties handling those returns. I remember getting products having to be returned to me from the other side of the world because I was selling to the US and Canada, and it was a very difficult place to be whenever you had a return request. Now I've got a new dropshipping model in place where I've been able to generate over 7 figures in sales, and with this type of e-commerce, the type of suppliers that we work with make its handling returns a lot easier. Just remember, if it is difficult for you with the current dropshipping model that you're following, remember that you can switch to a different type of dropshipping, and that will make handling customer returns a lot more simple and straightforward. The type of dropshipping I do now means that I'm working with local suppliers that are in the same country as my customers. So that's UK suppliers selling to UK customers. And that means returns are so much easier because it's all domestic. It means that you've got easy communication lines with the suppliers that you're working with, and often they will handle the returns on your behalf because they want to make sure there's a good brand reputation for them, which really helps us out as e-commerce business owners as well. So I hope this video was helpful to you and you understand better now how to handle returns. I am creating a community of people that have the same ambitions and want to build more freedom in their lives. And we discuss things like this all the time and different ways that we can become better business owners, and we help each other out. So if you're interested in that, then I recommend checking out the first link in the description. Don't worry, it's completely free. It's a free community. I just want to get around more people that are ambitious and building more freedom in their life. So check that out if it sounds like it's for you. If not, feel free to completely ignore it, but I hope you enjoyed today's video. Remember, like, subscribe and comment so I know that you enjoy this type of video, and let me know what type of video you'd like me to create moving forward. With that said, I will catch you in the next video.